Dangerous narcissists don't just lie to you. They systematically destroy your ability to trust your own mind. Jean-Paul Sartre discovered this psychological warfare technique in Nazi-occupied France, and what he found will completely change how you defend against reality distortion. By the end of this video, you'll have Sartre's bad faith detection system, a philosophical shield that makes you immune to gaslighting. Maybe you're dealing with someone who makes you question your own memories. Perhaps you've noticed that after every conversation with them, you feel confused about what actually happened. Or you might be asking yourself, am I going crazy? Or is this person deliberately messing with my head? This isn't just your experience. Millions of people struggle with reality distortion from dangerous narcissists, and conventional psychology often fails to provide adequate defense mechanisms. Traditional therapy focuses on healing after the damage is done, but it rarely teaches you how to protect your mind while you're still in the situation. But what if I told you that Jean-Paul Sartre solved this exact problem over 80 years ago? His approach doesn't just help you understand gaslighting, it gives you the philosophical tools to become completely immune to reality manipulation. While psychology tries to fix your broken trust, Sartre's existentialism teaches you to trust your fundamental freedom to choose your own reality. In 1940s Paris, Sartre observed something terrifying. He saw how ordinary people would abandon their own judgment and moral compass when faced with systematic reality distortion. The Nazis didn't just use physical force. They used psychological warfare to make people doubt their own perceptions, their own values, and their own ability to distinguish truth from lie. Sartre noticed that some people would collaborate, not because they agreed with fascism, but because they entered what he called bad faith, a psychological state where you abandon your own authentic judgment and let others define reality for you. But he also observed the resistance fighters who maintained their authentic sense of self despite constant propaganda and gaslighting. Today, we call this narcissistic abuse, psychological manipulation, or gaslighting. But Sartre's approach goes deeper than contemporary therapy because he understood that the battle for your mind is fundamentally about your existential freedom. While modern psychology treats you as a victim who needs healing, Sartre recognized you as a free being who has the power to choose your own reality, even under the most manipulative conditions. Now, Sartre's first insight was what he called bad faith. And I know this sounds academic, but imagine your sense of reality as a theater stage. You're the director, the actor, and the audience of your own life experience. You decide what's real, what matters, and what the truth is about your own experience. But here's what dangerous narcissists do. They sneak onto your stage and convince you to hand over the director's chair. They don't just lie to you, they systematically train you to doubt your own directorial abilities. They make you believe that they're the expert on your own reality. Think about it. Have you ever walked away from a conversation with someone and felt completely confused about what just happened? You went in knowing exactly what you wanted to say, what you experienced, and what the truth was. But somehow, 20 minutes later, you're questioning everything you thought you knew about the situation. This is the bad faith machine in action. The narcissist has convinced you to abandon your role as the director of your own reality. You've handed over your existential freedom, your fundamental right to interpret your own experience, to someone who has no business defining what's real for you. Sartre discovered that people don't just fall into bad faith accidentally. It's actually a choice to avoid the responsibility of trusting your own judgment. It feels safer to let someone else be the authority on reality, especially when they seem so confident and you feel so confused. I know this is getting deep already. Let me give you a moment to process this. What Sartre discovered is profound, and it's going to challenge everything you thought you knew about manipulation. Are you ready for the next revelation? Sartre's second insight was the difference between being for others and authentic being. Now, I know this sounds complex, but imagine looking in a mirror. When you look at yourself, you see your authentic reflection, your real face, your real expression, your real self looking back at you. But what if someone stood behind you and held up a funhouse mirror instead? Suddenly, you're seeing a distorted version of yourself. Maybe you look grotesque. Maybe you look pathetic. Maybe you look completely different from who you actually are. If you stare at that funhouse mirror long enough, you might start to believe that this distorted image is actually who you are. This is exactly what dangerous narcissists do to your sense of self. They hold up a funhouse mirror and convince you that their distorted reflection is more accurate than your own authentic self-knowledge. They become experts at being for others, creating a false version of themselves that seems perfect, confident, and authoritative. And they train you to see yourself through their distorted lens. Maybe they tell you that you're too sensitive when you have normal emotional reactions. Maybe they convince you that your memory is unreliable when you remember things they'd rather forget. Maybe they make you feel like you're crazy for having normal human needs and boundaries. Over time, you start to lose touch with your authentic self, the person who knows what they experienced, who trusts their own emotions, who has the right to their own perspective. You become trapped in being for others, constantly trying to see yourself through the narcissist's eyes instead of trusting your own vision. But here's what Sartre understood that modern psychology often misses. You are fundamentally free. Even in the most manipulative situation, you still have the existential freedom to choose how you interpret your experience. You are, in Sartre's famous words, condemned to be free. This means that no matter how convincing the narcissist's funhouse mirror is, you always have the choice to turn back to your authentic reflection. You have the power to say, I choose to trust my own experience. I choose to believe my own perceptions. I choose to value my own emotions more. This next part explains the most dangerous aspect of narcissistic manipulation. Take a deep breath because understanding this will change everything. Sartre's third insight was what he called the look. And this is where narcissistic manipulation becomes truly insidious. Imagine you're in a spotlight on a stage, and there's someone in the audience who's constantly judging your every move. Every gesture, every word, every expression is being evaluated and criticized. You become hyper-aware of how you appear to this judge, and slowly you start to lose touch with how you actually feel. This is what the look does to your psyche. The narcissist positions themselves as the ultimate judge of your reality, and you begin to see yourself primarily through their eyes. You start to live in constant anticipation of their approval or disapproval, their validation or criticism. Here's what's insidious about this. You begin to internalize their judgment. Even when they're not around, you hear their voice in your head, questioning your choices, doubting your perceptions, making you second-guess your own experience. You become your own worst critic, using their standards instead of your own. Maybe you find yourself constantly explaining your actions to an imaginary version of them. Maybe you anticipate their criticism before they even speak. Maybe you start to see your own normal human needs as too much or unreasonable because you're viewing yourself through their judgmental lens. But here's what Sartre discovered. The look only has power if you give it power. The narcissist can judge you all they want, but you have the existential freedom to reject their judgment entirely. You can choose to step out of their spotlight and return to your own authentic perspective. This doesn't mean you ignore feedback or become completely self-centered. It means you reclaim your right to be the primary authority on your own experience. You can listen to others' perspectives without letting them override your own self-knowledge. The key is recognizing when you're seeing yourself through someone else's look versus when you're connected to your authentic self. When you're under the look, You feel anxious, defensive, and constantly seeking approval. When you're connected to your authentic self, you feel grounded, clear, and confident in your own judgment. Now, I know this has been a lot to take in. Sartre's insights can feel overwhelming at first because they're so much deeper than what we usually hear about narcissistic abuse. But this depth is exactly what's going to set you free. Are you ready to learn how? Sartre's fourth and most powerful insight was about existential resistance, the choice to maintain your authentic existence despite constant manipulation. During the Nazi occupation, Sartre observed that resistance fighters had a secret weapon. They refused to let their oppressors define their reality, even under extreme pressure. Imagine you have a secret underground room in your house, a place where you keep your most treasured possessions, your authentic thoughts, your real feelings. The narcissist might control the main floors of your house. They might rearrange the furniture and change the rules, but they can never access your underground room unless you give them the key. This underground room is your existential freedom, your fundamental right to choose your own values, interpret your own experience, and decide what's true for you. The narcissist can manipulate the external circumstances, but they cannot touch your inner freedom unless you abandon it. Existential resistance means making a daily choice to trust your underground room more than their surface-level manipulations. It means choosing to believe your own experience even when they tell you it's wrong. It means choosing to value your own emotions even when they call you too sensitive. It means choosing to trust your own memory even when they insist it's unreliable. But here's the crucial part. This isn't passive resistance. It's active, conscious, moment-by-moment choice. Every time you're tempted to doubt your own perception, you choose to trust it instead. Every time you're tempted to seek their approval, you choose to validate yourself instead. Every time you're tempted to see yourself through their eyes, you choose to return to your authentic perspective. Sartre called this radical responsibility. Taking complete responsibility for your choices, even in manipulative situations. This doesn't mean you're responsible for their behavior or that the abuse is your fault. It means you're responsible for how you respond to their manipulation. You're responsible for whether you choose bad faith or authentic existence. This is incredibly empowering because it means you're never truly powerless. Even in the most controlling situation, you still have the power to choose your own reality. You still have the power to maintain your authentic self. You still have the power to resist their attempts to define who you are. The resistance fighters in Nazi-occupied France understood this. They might have had to comply with certain external demands to survive, but internally, they never surrendered their authentic values or their sense of what was true. They maintained their existential freedom even under the most oppressive circumstances. You can do the same thing. You can choose existential resistance. You can choose to trust your underground room more than their surface-level manipulations. You can choose to be authentically yourself, even when they're trying to convince you that you're someone else entirely. Now let me give you Sartre's practical defense system. 4 micro-specific techniques that will make you immune to reality distortion. Step 1. The reality anchor technique, based on Sartre's insight about authentic experience. Immediately after any conversation with a suspected narcissist, open your phone's notes app and write down 3 specific facts about what just happened. Not interpretations, not feelings, just facts. They said X, I said Y. The conversation lasted Z minutes. After your partner tells you that you never do the dishes, write, I did dishes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. They said I never do them. I showed them the clean dishes I just finished. The key is documenting your reality before their distortions can take root. Don't try to analyze or interpret. Just record the facts that you witnessed with your own eyes and heard with your own ears. Step 2. the authentic choice check, based on Sartre's bad faith concept. Before any decision or response in their presence, pause and ask yourself, am I choosing this because it's authentically what I want, or am I performing this to avoid their reaction? They ask where you want to go for dinner. Before automatically saying, I don't care, you choose, pause and ask, what do I actually want to eat right now? Then choose based on your authentic desire, not their expected response. The key is catching yourself before you slip into bad faith. Don't try to please them or avoid conflict. Just choose authentically, even if it's uncomfortable. Step 3. The Freedom Declaration, based on Sartre's Existential Freedom. When you feel reality confusion starting, immediately state out loud or in your mind, I choose to believe my experience. I am free to trust my own perception. Say it like you mean it. They tell you that you're remembering wrong about plans you made together. Instead of doubting yourself, state, I choose to believe what I remember. I trust my own experience of making these plans. The key is actively choosing your own reality instead of passively accepting their version. Don't argue with them, just internally commit to your own truth. Step 4. The Resistance Network, based on Sartre's community of authentic beings. Every single day, share one authentic thought or feeling with a trusted friend or family member. Something real about your experience, not filtered through the narcissist's perspective. Text a friend. I'm feeling confused about my conversation with X today. They said I was being unreasonable for wanting to discuss our plans, but I think wanting clarity is normal. Just one genuine thought about your reality. The key is maintaining connection to people who validate your authentic self. Don't isolate. Just share one real piece of your experience daily with someone who sees you clearly. Start today by choosing one of these techniques and practicing it in your next interaction. This week, implement all 4 practices daily. They only take 30 seconds each. Over the next month, these will become automatic responses that protect your mind from reality distortion. Remember, you're not trying to change the narcissist or win arguments. You're building an existential defense system that makes their manipulation powerless over your sense of reality. So what did Sartre teach us about defending against dangerous narcissists? 3 revolutionary insights. First, bad faith is always a choice. Nobody can force you to doubt your own reality. You have to choose to abandon your authentic judgment. This means you also have the power to choose authentic existence, even under pressure. Second, your authentic self exists independently of others' opinions. The narcissist's look can only define you if you let it. You are fundamentally free to reject their judgment and return to your own perspective. And most importantly, existential resistance is possible in any situation. Even the most manipulative person cannot touch your inner freedom unless you give them the key. You always have the power to choose your own reality. This is why Sartre's approach succeeds where conventional therapy often falls short. While traditional psychology focuses on healing your damaged trust and building self-esteem, Sartre's existentialism recognizes that you already have everything you need: your fundamental freedom to choose your own reality. While conventional therapy treats you as a victim who needs recovery, Sartre's approach recognizes you as a free being who has the power to resist manipulation in real time. You don't need years of healing. You need philosophical tools that work immediately. When you apply Sartre's insights to narcissistic abuse, you don't just learn to cope with manipulation, you become immune to it. You move from confused victim to existential warrior. You transform from someone who doubts their own reality to someone who trusts their authentic experience completely. If Sartre's insights into narcissistic manipulation resonated with you, subscribe and hit the notification bell to join our community of philosophical healers who are building mental defenses that actually work. Tell me in the comments, which of Sartre's insights hit you the hardest? Bad faith detection, authentic self-defense, or existential resistance? And what aspect of existential philosophy would you like me to explore next in our fight against psychological manipulation? Remember, you are condemned to be free. Choose wisely.